But if you want to come into your preferred starting pose, so we won't be very long in it, as we only have like 30 to 40 minutes this morning. But if you use a cushion or some sort of a soft surface under your sitting bones if you're sitting up, just to give you that added little piece of comfort and a little bit of support. Or if you're lying down, you might like a soft surface under your back, you know, a sort of an added bit of buffer on the mat with a cushion, a long cushion, or a blanket, whatever you're most comfortable with. And just, we're going to drop into the body. So closing the eyes over or just lowering the gaze down towards the floor. Taking a nice grounding breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then just let the breath settle into its own natural rhythm, natural pace. Preferably breathing in and out through the nose if you can, but if that's not available to you at the moment, that's absolutely fine. Just becoming aware of your breath, noticing how it's feeling today, noticing it coming into the body using that breath, and then the body pressing the breath back out, so that there's this exchange going on and how much work is going on with the body even when you're sitting or lying still. And just marveling at the wonder of it. I'll just read a little quote to you for the start of the practice. And this called to me today by Pema Chodron. I'm sure I'm pronouncing her name badly, but Pema Chodron. We think that the point is to pass the test or to overcome the problem, but the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. We think that the point is to pass the test or to overcome the problem, but the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. So if you're working on something or finding that you're spending a lot of time trying to solve something, sometimes just taking this time out to just be can help things to fall together or to come apart, whatever they're meant to do. It's sort of that flow that we're talking about with the breath, as the breath comes in and all the work that happens, and then the breath goes out and it expels what needs to leave the body. Carbon dioxide, keeping the balance in the body. And so dropping into the physical body and being aware of how the head is feeling, and the thoughts and the mind. Not trying to judge or change all that's going on, but rather being aware of it. So this time is slowing down to see, oh yeah, I'm thinking a lot of all the things I need to do, or I'm worrying, or thinking about the past or about the future. Just being aware, trying to take that sort of outsider's point of view to notice what's going on. And rather than being in the thought and ruminating on the thought, just maybe imagining the thoughts like clouds or like leaves on a river, but they can just continue on by for this period of time. It's just being very kind to yourself and very gentle with yourself. There is no right way or wrong way of doing anything. It's actually giving yourself thanks for making the time and space to slow everything down, to bring the awareness inside yourself. Traveling down along the face, noticing your facial muscles and the jawline, because we tend to hold a lot, I certainly do, in my face. So people often say to me that how I'm feeling is written all over my face. So I'm trying to become more aware of how my facial expressions or my facial reactions are occurring. And it's not because I'm trying to judge it or change it. I'm just interested. What do other people see? What can I notice about that? So do I clench my jaw? Do my shoulders come up if I'm busy or tense? Can I explore maybe dropping the shoulders down, softening the space between the eyebrows? And everybody is different. So if this doesn't resonate, that's absolutely fine. Just being aware of the absence of any of that for you. And traveling into the torso. So noticing the breath in and how we inflate like a balloon, because our lungs inflate as we breathe in. And then we breathe out. And that's when we draw the muscles back in again. So we're toning the muscles from the inside out. Breathing in, we soften those external muscles, allowing the organs to expand with the lungs expanding. And then everything is shrinking back in, and we can draw those muscles back in as we press the air out. And then softening the breath again, bringing the awareness down to the lower half of the body, the pelvic area, the legs, the feet, and not forgetting, of course, the arms and the hands. And being aware if there's any part of the body that feels uncomfortable. And just imagine breathing into that area and breathing out of that area. And I know that sounds a little odd, but that can sometimes bring our awareness to a particular part of the body to help it soften. And now bring your awareness to somewhere that feels very comfortable in the body. Could be your little finger, could be your toes, your calves. And just breathing into that area, acknowledging it, the feeling of ease in a particular part of the body. And we start to bring a little movement into the body. So whether you're sitting upright or you're lying down, you're just bending the knees and placing the feet flat on the floor. You can rest your hands on the tops of the knees if you like, and just gently sway the knees from side to side. Just steadying the knees then, just at the center, and just moving your wrists and maybe lifting up your feet or rolling your ankles in one direction and then the other direction. You could do this lying on the floor, you could do this sitting up, it's absolutely fine. And then resting the feet down again and the hands down again. If you're still lying on the floor, you're just going to roll over onto one side for a moment. And if you're sitting upright, you can just roll your upper body over your knees. So you're kind of hugging into the knees. And if you're lying on the floor, you're just doing the same thing, except maybe your hands are up under your head. And just enjoying that nice C shape of the back. And when you're ready, if you're on the floor, you're pressing the floor away with the upper hand and coming into an upright seated position. And just bring the legs into a cross-legged position just for a moment. I know if you were doing the class last night and the hips are a little tight, get those pillows in underneath the knees. Make sure you're nice and comfortable. There doesn't need to be any added discomfort here. What we want is for the muscles to get the idea that there is support so that they can relax and release effort. And breathing in, sweeping the arms up overhead. Breathing out, bringing the hands down on the opposite knees. So you're crossing your arms and then hinging forward at the hips and release the head and shoulders just to soften the back if you can. Your gaze is down towards the floor. And feeling that across the lower back and maybe even across the buttocks and across the upper back. This really broadens the whole torso. So softening into it, releasing with each breath out. And of course, at any point, if it's not serving you, feel free to come out of it at any point. But focusing on the breath if you can. With the breath in, you're filling the lungs, and the breath out, you're softening the body into that forward fold. The next breath in, lifting up the arms again, up towards the ceiling, and breathing out, crossing the hands back down on the opposite knees. This way, it's the hands have gone opposite, so the other hand is to the front. Don't worry if you can't remember which one was which. And you're just hinging forward at the hips, releasing into the forward fold, into Uttanasana forward fold. It's an excellent posture at any time for releasing tension across the back, the upper and lower back in particular. And also forward folds are great for anxiety and stress. So if there's a lot going on, or if you're preparing to be very busy, it's a very nice posture to breathe into for a couple of breaths. Next breath in, lifting the arms back up again, looking up at those hands, and breathing out, bring them back down by the sides. Breathing in, sweeping the arms up overhead, looking up at those hands. Breathing out, turning to the left-hand side. You're bringing one hand to the outside of the knee, and the other hand is just placed on the floor in the middle behind. Now, when you come into a twist, the natural tendency is for the knees almost just to start lifting, and there's gripping going on at the tops of the legs. If that's happening, can you explore the possibility of resting the knees down, letting the knees soften, letting the hip flexor soften, so that the twist is focused on the middle of the waist. That's where we're doing the work. We're doing a nice twist in the middle of the body. And then breathing in, sweeping the arms back up to the center, looking up at those hands. Breathing out, coming to the other side. Hand comes to the outside of the knee. And once again, taking a couple of breaths to allow those knees to relax, hip flexors to relax, the buttocks to relax. We want to soften the body with the breath out. And breathing in, bringing both arms back up to center, looking up at those hands. Bring the hands together, interlace the fingers, point the first fingers up towards the ceiling, and then bring the gaze forwards. Leaning over to one side, feel a nice stretch onto the side of the body. You might even look out to that side, looking out under your arm, coming back up to center and leaning over to the other side and maybe bringing the gaze in the other direction. Coming back to center, releasing the hands, allowing the hands float back down onto the floor. If you have any cushions or anything underneath the knees, just moving them away to the side. And we're going to take the right knee up for a moment. The left knee is staying where it is. If you do feel though that you want to keep a support under the left knee for this, that's absolutely fine. But what we're going to do is rotate that right foot out so that we're rotating the hip inwards while we're bringing the foot outwards. Now, if you have a bunion on your foot and that's sore to rest your foot on the side, if you put a blanket or some sort of padding underneath the foot, that can help to give a little bit of support. So your left foot is in line with the front of your right thigh. Your hip is rotating inwards. And what we're going to do is turn to the left. So now you're doing a full rotation. You might press the hip forward a little. So what you're doing is you're pressing the hip forward to feel a stretch in the hip flexor, but you're also twisting the spine. Now, notice or become aware if you're gripping in the bum. Can you soften the bum muscles? And when you feel that you're comfortably in this position, you can semi-turn back to the center in order to sweep your arm up. Turn the palm to face out because that rotates the shoulder in the right direction. Sweep the arm up overhead. You might need to move the hand that's on the floor out a little and bend the elbow. Reach overhead. So now you're stretching right out from the knee out to the fingertip. And don't forget to breathe. And then bring that hand back down again. And we'll turn towards the rotated, inward rotated hip. Just explore if you could maybe turn a little towards that foot. Again, it's not a in any way meant to cause any pain or pinching. So if you're staying leaning over to the side and looking at the knee, that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, you're trying to sit up nice and tall, rotating, and then coming back to the center, and we do the other side. So helping that foot up, bringing it back into the easy cross-legged posture, bending up the left knee and turning that leg to the outside. So your front foot is resting almost on the outside of the upper thigh. Remove my layers now. I always need my layers. Keep warm myself up. And if you need a blanket underneath the foot to give it a little support if the joint of the toe is in any way uncomfortable. Getting yourself nice and comfortable. Bring the right hand back a little so that you can lean a little into the posture and press the hip forward. You can see that hip comes up and lifts forward. And you can complete your twist around. You can bring the hand to rest on the opposite knee if you like. Just breathing into it for a moment or two, and then checking into how do my glutes feel. Am I gripping in the buttocks? Can I soften the belly? Can I soften the hips? And then bring a little forward rotation. So you're coming back to the front again, just in order to turn the palm of the hand face out. Bring the arm up overhead. Extend out the hand that's on the floor a little and bend it to give you a little bit of space and reach out through those fingertips. You can look up at the hand if you like. Really feel that hip pressing forward so that you're stretching from the knee right up to the fingertips. And then bringing the hand back down again. Slowly, slowly, so that you can really connect in with how the physical body is feeling. And then turning to face that inner rotated leg. So you're looking at your heel. But again, if this is a limitation at this moment in time, you can even just lean back and look over the shoulder a little. Or wherever you are with this, just trying to soften the muscles as much as you can. And become aware of what's happening or how you're feeling, or if you get irritated or it's just uncomfortable. It's all a part of the practice. And so breathing into it and knowing that this will be for a couple of breaths, and then we move on to the next posture. And then coming back to center again, helping that foot up, crossing the legs in front, just exploring with a little fire log. So fire log is very deep in the hips again, and the knees may be coming up. So what happens is that the front leg is coming across in a line. When you're sitting cross-legged, normally we bring them in at an angle, whereas we want to have the knee and the ankle as close to in a line as we can. And then the upper leg is going to be the ankle on top of the knee, and the knee is coming down towards that ankle. Now, as you can see, I am far from this. I used to be able to do this, no problem at all, but my hips have gotten tighter. It's a really nice one to do, not pushing into pain and not pressing that knee down or anything, but these are great preparatory, or I'll just say preparation, for pigeon pose. Because pigeon pose, the leg is in this position on the floor, great for working the hips. So lifting up out of the pelvic bowl, but grab the blocks, grab bolsters, grab blankets, give yourself any support that you need to hold the position wherever it might be. And breathing into it so that you can feel that you're working into the joints, but there's no pinching, pain, burning, anything like that. And release. So we move on to the other side, and then we'll come up into standing. So leaning over to release that top leg, lifting up the bottom leg, and we just swap it over just for a breath or two. So the lower leg, ankle and knee in line. We're bringing that top leg on top. And here, I can feel that my hamstring is a little tight. So I know I need to just manipulate, rock a little bit to get that muscle to feel a little comfortable. It's getting to know your own body and sensing, okay, it's not about the joints, but I can tell that the muscle is a little tight. So coming into wherever I can just find the steady, comfortable seat within that for a couple of moments. Putting in my support wherever I need it. So a blanket in under that lifted knee. And making sure that your hands aren't pressing down. You know, this isn't about forcing anything. It's just about being aware of, okay, I can feel that in the outer hip. I'd like to breathe into the outer hip. So wherever it may be in your body, that you're breathing into the outer hip and breathing out from the outer hip. Allowing it to soften. And then releasing, coming up. So really nice one to do just every so often to help prepare for pigeon. And then we're going to sweep the knees under, come up onto hands and knees. Moving any blankets and anything out of the way. So hands placed on the floor, we'll just do a little sun salutation or two, which is really nice to connect into the hamstrings and into the hips as well. So the hands are going to be flat on the floor with the first fingers pointing forwards, spreading out the fingers to give you plenty of support. Curl the toes under and lift the hips up. So just warming into the hamstrings to start, bending the knees, just kind of pedaling the legs. And you could even rock from side to side so that you could lift up one hand and then lift up the other. So lifting up one hand and then lifting up the other. So you straighten one leg when you lift that hand, and you straighten the other leg while you lift that hand. It also helps you to keep a little bit lighter on your feet and on your hands, and not feel so much like you're falling into the ground. And when you keep the knees bent, that keeps the weight back over the heels. And we're just going to walk the hands forward into a plank, and then walk the hands back towards the feet. And then bending the knees slightly, breathing in, sweeping the arms out to the sides and up overhead. Hands come together and then down into prayer position. Okay, so we'll just do 2 sun salutations, okay? Moving really slowly so that you can really sense how you're feeling in the body. Breathing in, sweeping the arms up and overhead. Gentle bend in the knees so you can do a back bend. Breathing out, hinging forwards. Hands coming down towards the floor. Crown of the head points towards the floor. Breathing in, hands on the fronts of the shins, straight back, straight legs. And breathing out, folding forwards. Now, I have to walk forward to the front of my mat as I comes up the back. You're going to lift up the right foot to step it back. Hands flat on the floor, left foot back to meet the right. Into plank. Then drop the knees onto the floor, bend the elbows down towards the feet, lowering the chin and chest to the floor, the hips are lifted, and then lowering the hips and raising the head and chest. Elbows come towards each other and the shoulders slide down the back. Press the floor away, curl the toes under, lifting up the hips, coming back into downward facing dog. And again, keep those knees bent if you need to, and work towards straightening them. There's a lot of work. And then you can jump, walk your feet, step them forward towards the hands, bending the knees to stay nice and connected with the floor and with your posture, folding forwards and sweeping the arms out, up overhead, hands together in prayer position, breathing out back to the center. Breathing in, sweeping the arms up, gentle back bend, breathing out, folding forwards. Breathing in, straight leg, straight back, breathing out, folding forwards. Bring the left leg back, hands flat on the floor, bring the right foot back to meet it, into plank. Drop the knees to the floor, bend the elbows, lower the chin and chest, and then lowering the hips, lifting the head and chest. Feet flat on the floor. Press the floor away, curl the toes under, lift the hips up into downward dog. And just breathing here for 1 or 2 breaths. And then you can step or walk the feet forward to meet the hands. Folding over the legs. And then bending the knees, sweeping the arms out to the sides, up overhead, hands together, and down into prayer position. Lovely. So stepping out wide of the mat, we'll just do a nice little forward fold. When you come to a wide-legged stance, you gently place the heels out at a slight angle so that it's almost like your feet are turning very slightly in, and that's to encourage you to press the outside edges of your feet into the floor. Now give a little micro bend of the knees, hands on the hips, lifting up out of the pelvic bowl, and then breathing out, hinging forwards. So keeping the knees bent protects the back, and then bring the hands down towards the floor. And then when you're down there, you can straighten the legs. The gaze goes through towards the back. The hands, if they reach the floor, can be flat on the floor between the feet, or the hands can rest on the fronts of the shins. And just breathing here for a couple of breaths. Then straightening your back. So your gaze is still down at the floor and straightening the back. So the crown of the head is reaching forwards. And then folding forward over the legs again. If your hand can reach the floor, bring the left hand into the center. If your hand can't reach the floor and you need to just grab a blanket or two to just lift the height of the floor a little, you can just do that. Left hand onto the floor, right hand is going to sweep up to standing forward twist. Gaze is coming up towards the ceiling. It's not going to turn all the way, but your aim is to help to open up the front of the body a little more. And then bring that right hand down to the floor, swapping over with the left, turning the left hand up, looking up at the ceiling. And then bring the left hand down to meet the right. Again, if your hands reach your feet, your first two fingers are coming down around your big toes. If they don't, that's fine. Bring the hands onto the fronts of the shins is absolutely fine. And you're looking to straighten the arms and straighten the back. So the crown of the head is reaching forward and your gaze is coming forward. So you're trying to, it's almost like you're lengthening the upper body outwards while pressing into the outside edges of the feet and the heels and lengthening the backs of the legs. And releasing and folding forwards. Hands come up onto the creases at the tops of the legs. Bend the knees. Hinging the upper body upwards, pressing the feet into the floor and coming up to stand. Lovely. Turn the feet towards the top end of the mat and just step forward back into Tadasana. So with each movement, we're trying to do it really slowly so that everything is with control. Now, let me move. So if you have any blankets or blocks or anything in the way, just move them out of the way. So we're back in Tadasana at the top of the mat, and we're going to come down into a squat, coming down slowly, slowly, slowly with control. Knees continue to point forwards, opening, keeping the chest forward if you can, and just play around. Maybe you could just let go to sit back down on the heels and lift the feet. Don't worry if you roll all the way back. That's okay. That's part of the crack. Okay, so a lot of it is to do with just having a bit of fun and also trusting yourself a little. So a little boat, which is amazing for tummy muscles, but also this, trust in being able to drop down onto the buttocks. So lifting up the feet, hands can be extended out beside the feet, just maybe straightening them if you can, one at a time. Chest and head lifted. And crossing the legs, fingertips out to the sides, lift up the hips, back down again. Once more, extending the legs, extending the hands, and the knees can be bent if they need to be, or extend one straight, extend the other straight, and then crossing the legs again. Fingertips into the outside edges, lift up the hips. Place the feet flat on the floor. Bring the hands underneath the knees. I'm just going to roll forward. Make sure that you have plenty of space behind you as we just allow ourselves to rock back on the floor. So lowering back, just rock a little, massaging the lower back. Enjoy that. Like if there's any part that you feel actually you want to stay there, like just sort of massaging your bum from side to side or massaging your lower back from side to side. You just move the knees from side to side. And then rocking back up again. And one last time, down on your back and back up. And now we're going to come into relaxation already. I know, so much quicker on a Thursday. But if you want to get, I want to make sure that you get a nice little shavasana in at the end. So pillows, bulk them up underneath your knees, nice and supported. Another nice thing to do, so it's a version of shavasana which is called brook, mountain brook, which is you have a rolled blanket underneath your heels. You then have the pillows underneath your knees. You can have a blanket underneath your back. So just right across underneath the bra line. And then a pillow underneath your head. So it's like your body is in a little wave, like a brook. I'm making sure as well with the pillow, I think I may have mentioned it to you before, because I keep going on about it because I love it, is the pillow will be at the base of your shoulders to give you that little support. And then grab the top corners of the pillow and tuck and roll them under so that you get this lovely little kind of a wedge for your head. It just holds your head. The pillows underneath the knees, as I said, and then blanket underneath the heels. Make sure then you're completely covered to give you that nice warmth. And if you want to, a really nice thing to do is to hold the corners of your blanket in your hands, as it gives that little bit of support. So we've gotten to move the body on a Thursday, and it's lovely to do, just getting into the hips, couple of little slow salutations. Nothing has to be too much, you know, moving slowly lets you not only get the benefit of the posture, but also that connection with the body on how it's feeling and how you're doing today, what you need. Being really, really kind to yourself. So I'm going to read a poem, and I want you to release all effort, and I will ring the bell when it's time to come out of the Shavasana. So this is called Clearing by Martha Postlethwaite. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. Tuning into maybe the sounds beyond your room, beyond your building. Rubbing your fingertips together. Maybe noticing the swallow with the taste in your mouth. Or any smells. And what's going on in your mind. Being aware of the softness of the body, softness of the mind, softness of the breath. Just bending up the knees. Gently sway the knees from side to side. And when you're ready, just rolling onto one side, resting there for a moment, curling up again as we did at the beginning. Releasing all effort in the spine. And using the upper hand to press the floor away to come into an upright seated position. Keeping the blanket on you, keeping the eyes closed. Enjoying this transition into wakefulness, into preparation for the day. Just connecting into the hands, rubbing the hands together. Bringing the hands to the top of the head. Little press, releasing, bringing the hands around to the front of the eyes, cupping the hands over the eyes, press and release. Hands down along either side of the face, a little press and release. Hands down on either side of the neck and throat and release. And left hand on the tummy, right hand on the heart. Nice big deep breath in through the nose. And out through the breath, out through the mouth. And then bringing the hands together in prayer position, pressing the thumbs to the heart center, bowing the head. Getting ready to go in through the rest of your day, waking up the energy, giving yourself thanks for making this little space to practice on a Thursday morning, and I give you thanks for practicing with me. Namaste.